The novel, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, showed that men, not only women, can be two-faced pieces of shit like my ex. Just kidding, I've never had a girlfriend in my life. What better idea to celebrate the book's 102nd anniversary than to make a video game based on it? It sounds like a terrible idea. Well, it'll be a great game to look at this video. And for those of you who are new, this is the Worst Game Search series where I will look at the games considered to be the worst and rank them at the end, making fun of them throughout most of the video. If you absolutely love this game, I'd suggest leaving, as I am now beginning to take the piss via urethral extraction out of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I played the Japanese version of this game due to it having 2 levels more than the American version. It's not like I had to play more of the game, the American version simply repeats 2 of its levels. The basic premise of the game is Dr. Jekyll has pulled himself away from his research at his laboratory to head to the church and get married, which sounds simple enough until you start playing the game. Essentially everyone and everything is out to fuck with Jekyll as you make your way to the church. Like Jekyll was the kid at school absolutely everyone bullied, no matter how good they were in the eyes of the teachers. Instead of being shoved when passing by someone, now Jekyll is barged at by people. And instead of cherry bombs being thrown at him, this guy plants actual bombs every few feet Jekyll goes. Although, I wonder why no one has kicked out the bomb guy from the town yet, as the frequency he plants the bombs would mean the town would be nothing but rubble, and Jekyll would arrive to half a church with the eviscerated corpses of his wife and the priest out front. I'm completely wrong with that analogy though, because the bombs don't hurt anyone or so much as chip away a single stone from the cobbled streets. Like everything else took a bomb resistant potion except Jekyll. The more objects that hit Jekyll, the more your stress meter goes up, and if you get too stressed, you won't die like most research suggests, but instead you'll turn into Mr. Hyde. Unlike with Jekyll, Hyde auto-scrolls his way from the opposite side of the map, and if he reaches where Jekyll was, lightning will come down and kill you. It's kinda as if Hyde is a death wish as he rushes headlong into swarms of demons, but at least he moves faster than Jekyll's snail pace that could be barely described as a walk. You could excuse this slow movement from him because he's carrying a cane, but as you know, any excuses for including bad game design isn't excused in my eyes. Please excuse my excessive uses of excuse there. Although I don't know if Jekyll even needs a cane due to him always having it tucked under his arm and his knack to jump higher than most people. This could have been explained in the book, but I haven't read it. Going out on a limb here, but I think this game doesn't follow too closely to the events of the book, because I doubt the majority of it entails the story of the town attacking Jekyll. Every enemy seems to have a motivation for wanting to hurt Jekyll. The cat gets startled from noises, this kid has a crush on Jekyll's wife, and this woman is PMSing. A change in the American version is the removal of a woman that Jekyll seemingly has sex with, who then receives health and coins. The only way of getting those items, other than transforming into Hyde, and you remove it from the game. Although I understand why you wouldn't keep it, as this adulterous behaviour wouldn't be the best thing to have on a mainly kids-focused console like the NES, but it's a funny thought to have the supposedly good Dr. Jekyll impregnate countless women before his marriage. It's also hilarious that Jekyll fucks them so good they pay him, like a reverse prostitute, but with the animation not showing much, perhaps Jekyll is actually robbing these women. The only time the game gives you a breather from all its obstacles, and it has Jekyll doing an action that would leave most out of breath. The cane can be used as a lunge attack, but it doesn't do anything apart from putting out bomb fuses and hurting select individuals. I wouldn't recommend using it to put out the bomb fuses as you get blown up most times, and a direct blast will generate enough stress to instantly turn you into Hyde, just like hitting the obese singing lady. I get that Jekyll is supposed to be a nice person and that's why he won't harm anyone, but he can only kill bees and not even the spiders, which seems like a strange line to draw on what to harm. But we all know insects are below arachnids in the animal kingdom, and classism was still prominent in the 1800s, which was the time period this was set in. The birds you encounter are some that aren't of this world, as they frequently defecate perfectly swelled shits right onto you, and this falling feces has so much weight to them, it makes Jekyll lurch back a few steps if hit. It must really be Australian for the birds' colons to be shitting out poos the same size as them every few seconds. It got me thinking, if everything else in this town is trying to kill you, and visits to a demon land occur when Jekyll is too stressed, it's not too much of a stretch to think that the birds are producing massive dumps because they are flesh-eating monsters that feast on the townsfolk and other animals. I salute and respect thee, brave man, who is protecting me from these foul beasts by shooting them down, and I'm not even mad that they're hitting me. Okay, I am mad. Jekyll is the unluckiest bipolar I know. I'm surprised the town doesn't start collapsing behind him and he has to run to the church temple run style. To revert from Hyde back to Jekyll when you get too stressed out, you need to kill enough demons to refill your stress meter. Unlike Jekyll, Hyde isn't opposed to leaving demons bloody by punching them or using his much hyped up move, the Psycho Wave. The Psycho Wave must be imbued with the spirit of Jekyll as it circles around enemies like it doesn't want to hurt them and doesn't work most of the time, as pressing both up and B is the only way to input the move. Why not use the select button, which never gets used, instead of a 2-button input for an effective attack that I need to use to prevent a game over? My problem with these Hyde sections is there are parts where you were meant to jump, but since you were so used to concentrating on killing the enemies, you will more than likely die from falling or getting scrolled past. Despite being late as hell, I think this will be a good time to tell you how confusing and unforgiving this game is. Most of your knowledge from this game comes from continuous trial and error to understand the patterns of the enemies, or at least grasp their patterns due to their random nature. Even when you do think you understand the enemies, the game will be relentless with how frequently it throws enemies at you, and before you know it, you'll be respawning all the way back at the start of the level. Mind you, I didn't finish the game, but the method of getting the supposedly good ending fits perfectly with the rest of the game, as it's just as confusing and obscure. On the final level, you need to purposefully turn yourself into Hyde and go past the point where Jekyll last was. Doing so will send Hyde up onto the rooftops where he will eventually do battle in a boss fight, after which you will walk all the way to the church's Jekyll, possibly to make you quit before the end from how slow he walks. While Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde frustrates me more than a nagging wife would her husband, there are still aspects to the game I enjoyed. The music sets the creepy atmosphere nicely despite the same 2 songs being repeated ad nauseum, and my praise can't continue to the sound effects as most the ear bleeders at nails and chalkboards would be proud of. The graphics, while not mind-blowing, are nicely detailed, and it's cool to see a desolate version of the current level when playing as Hyde. Although you probably won't notice as you'd be too busy killing enemies, and seeing as you start from the opposite side of the level, you probably won't realize it's a rundown version of the level. If you scoop deep enough down into this game's core, you could manage to scrounge together a competent game. The concept is novel, yet the frustrating and mostly boring gameplay matched with its counterintuitive logic makes for one of the worst games I've played so far. Here's a list of games to prove I'm not lying. Until next time, I bid thee a safe passage to another YouTube channel, but please come back when I upload next. I'm off to masturbate because I'm like Dr. Jekyll, I just haven't been feeling myself lately.